All right, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Secrets in the Saddle podcast, all things cycling. You with your host, Sylvie. And I have an extraordinary guy that I was referred to by one of my other podcast guests, Dan Hurd. And so let's meet Alex Caicedo. Now, Alex is another endurance or Alex extreme cycling tour cyclist. I don't know what you I'm sure you have
Sounds
a name
right.
for you guys. I'm not sure what it is, but maybe you can share that. And I'm just gonna go over a little bit of his bio, and then we have quite a few things that we're going to be talking about. And as you can see, first of all, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and to the YouTube channel and put on those notifications so you don't miss any of these unique, really exciting episodes, because you have to get on to YouTube for this one, because Alex is going to talk about his bike and he's got it in the background. So all right, so in 2018 was his first ever bike tour, where he went from Virginia to California. He crossed 10 states. Now, in the beginning, and I really want him to elaborate on this, it was both painful and horrible, because don't tell me that getting on a bike for months is going to be all roses and sunshine and rainbows and unicorns like the whole time there. So we're gonna have him talk about that. He's currently sitting in Tampa, Florida, resting up, getting some sun, and but then over time, of course, that pain subsides, and then he finishes route and he comes back to reality. So these are just some of the little beginnings of what is made him and is taking him to his next big tour. But we're going to go back and start from the beginning. So welcome, Alex. I'm super excited to have you here, and I can't wait to dive into your story.
Thanks. Excited to be here for sure.
Thanks. Awesome. Now, all right, I always like to start with everybody, like, how did you get into cycling and how did that come about?
Yeah, it's so I biked a lot when I was a little kid, and I don't think I ever biked beyond the age of like 10 until like when I was 25. I started to take up biking again, and it's mainly because I was a runner and I just got too many knee injuries and I couldn't really run anymore. And the guy I worked with suggested cycling, which I never was into it because I'd never had a bike with gears, and that just always terrified me. And I was always terrified of being like made fun of by the people who, like the road cyclists who were like really fast and good at it. But he had a group, and he convinced me to go, and they were like super. They were all about educating people about cycling. So that he helped me out. He was like a really fast rider, but he stayed in the back with all the slow guys like me, and taught me how to shift gears. I didn't even know there was tubes in the tires. He taught me about how to like change all that and stuff. And I rode with, and just cycling on the road etiquette, which was like super important because I always used to bike on the sidewalk. So it was great. I learned a lot, things that I never knew before. But as time went on, I realized I wasn't really a road cyclist. I didn't really enjoy that a lot. Just kind of riding for, I guess, speed or to work out. So I kind of faded away from it for a few years. Then just kind of was doing cycling for commuting purposes only. I don't know, trying to find my niche. I didn't like mountain biking because I didn't like packing up all my stuff into a car, driving somewhere, unloading it, having fun, and then repack it. It's just this whole thing. So
That's
yeah,
kind of why I dropped mountain biking too, actually.
Yeah, right.
It's gone right into road cycling.
It's such a pain. I mean, I love it, but if somebody could just bring all my stuff up, let me ride, and then take care of the mess, like I'd be all about it. But so yeah, I was just kind of struggling to find my niche, and I knew I liked cycling. I just didn't know where my niche was, I guess, is like the way to describe it.
So where were you when you were doing all that?
So I started out in South Carolina. That's when
Okay.
a little town called Aiken, South Carolina.
Oh,
And shout out to the Aiken Cycling Club.
I think I've been there.
Really? That's so weird. Whenever
It
anybody,
sounds really familiar because I have gone there for training camps. And of course, like you ride through all these little villages, and that one sounds familiar. I'd have to look on the map, but
interesting, yeah.
yeah, shout out to Aiken's.
That would be so cool. Yeah, I always have to explain where it is when somebody's heard of it, I get excited.
Yeah, it's kind of like my village. I'm like,
Yeah,
I say where it is, they're like, okay, then the next big village, and then
yeah,
like
yeah.
you just stops in Montreal. Everybody knows where Montreal is, so I
Exactly. Yeah,
live in the peripheral of Montreal.
somewhere near. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like it.
exactly, exactly. As long as you know that, it's fine. So, so what made you decide to go touring? Did you have a friend that was into it, or is just
So at the time I lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, and that this is like probably 4 years after South Carolina when I was just kind of doing biking on and off,
yeah?
and I was commuting to just a group I played frisbee with, and then one day
Did you play ultimate frisbee?
I did, yeah, I played ultimate frisbee, yeah.
Me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Isn't it awesome? Oh, I love
it is
it.
awesome. I did it really like hardcore for like 5 years, and then I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, that's it. Like I
yeah.
want a little bit of my life back and to do other things like ride my bike, see my
Oh,
friends.
oh, you were doing the tournaments and stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Oh,
was fun. Like
oh
I
yeah.
I still have like a lot of my core good friends, like girls, um come from the ultimate frisbee, that whole group. Like we're,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, we like you guys party? Like really
Yeah,
party?
yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
well, now see, this was after, I don't know how early, were you like playing in
I
college or
was
something?
like 96 to 2000,
Was that like college
95.
time for you?
Well, yeah, it was sorry, that was my late 20s.
Yeah, so yeah,
And
me, I was
yeah,
much later when I started
yeah.
playing, so.
I don't know what it's kind of like now. It really like when I started, it was like just starting to get really big,
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
I saw it on TV, and I'm like, hey, I really want to find out what that sport is all about, and I want to find it. And just so happened when I moved to Ottawa, where I currently am, I started dating a guy who was a coach, like a team, like he had his own ultimate frisbee team. I was like, woo, perfect.
There you go.
Anyways, but yeah, it was like late 90s.
Okay, yeah. No, I just played pickup, so I was never intense into it. So I wish
No.
I could, but nah, there's a lot of really good athletes that play. So I just tried
Mm.
to like pick it up where I could, and then eventually I had to stop playing because I kept getting injured because I just kind of dived too much, I think. And then
Yeah.
that's like where you start, and it's like this was around the time I was training for the bike touring six
Oh,
continent
okay.
thing. I was
Yeah.
like, this would be odd if I couldn't do this because of a stupid injury. So I just had
Yeah.
to kind of step back from it for a
That's kind of
while.
why I
But
left too. I wasn't getting injured, but I could see a lot of my friends like ACL tears, like
yeah,
and
collarbones.
concussions. Like it
Yeah,
was
a
starting to
lot.
get kind of crazy,
Yeah,
fast and I don't know, rougher. And I was
it
like,
was. Yeah,
I think I'm just going to exit out now. I had a really like wicked competitive year that, like I said, I had no life. And I'm
yeah,
just like, this is kind of nice. Now it's not fun anymore. I'm going to move on to something else. But yeah, I was just like, and yeah, a lot of my girlfriends were getting like, like I was saying, ACL tears
yeah. It's
and things like
intense.
that. And I was like,
People,
no,
yeah, people
I
think
like
of
my
it as like
body.
this. Yeah, people think of it as like a boring, thing that you play in like the quads of college, but it's intense. It's fun.
Oh
It's
yeah.
super competitive. I
Yeah.
loved it. I really did.
It's so much fun, eh?
Yeah,
Like I love diving too, but I can see
yeah,
like after a while you're like
yeah.
laying out.
Just going into work with brush burns like and
Yeah.
band-aids all over my arms all the time. It just got
Yeah, yeah.
very odd, but I do love it still for sure. But
Oh, so you moved
where was
on.
I?
Yeah,
Oh
no,
yeah, so
so yeah, so you're training.
yeah, well I was commuting there and well, a buddy of mine he just said you want to ride the Greenway one day, so we biked it. And he just brought up he's like my dream is to bike across the country. one day, and I was like,
Oh.
and at first I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, how could you? I was like, explain this because I don't understand. And he was like, yeah, you have to strap a tent to here, you bike and you camp out and you eat. And I'm like, it didn't make sense to me at all. So, but the next day, I just started I typed in bike touring into Google and I just started reading up and I was like, huh, this is this is my niche and in cycling, you don't have to go fast, you go very slow.
Hmm.
You have a heavy bike, you're enjoying the outdoors, you get to like explore.
Hmm.
So it just was like, I think this is it. So I really just started. I bought a bicycle frame, the bike frame that you see behind me, just the
Yeah.
frame, because I wanted to build it up into all the stuff that I wanted.
Oh,
And I
very
was,
cool.
yeah. And I didn't know how to do any of this, but I
Right.
wanted to learn it. So I bought the frame, and then I bought all the parts for the wheels, and then built the
Hmm.
wheels. Picked out a seat. Looked at like a billion handlebars before I found the ones I wanted.
Yeah,
The
really.
racks. And it's funny, like it's a steel frame. So I bought the steel frame. I was like, huh, this isn't heavy at all. I don't know why people complain. And as soon as you put
Because you're like,
tires, when you
the
put wheels, yeah, it's all of a sudden it's 30 pounds. And it's like, ooh, okay, now
yeah.
I see.
Now I
Um,
get it.
so yeah,
Cool.
I just slowly built this up without any plan of actually doing a tour. Um, and then like, because I was never even camped out once in my life in a tent at this time. I'd never been west of Ohio. There's a lot of like things I'd never done that like
Yeah.
touring would have been like, I don't know if you belong here. So, I
I
never
think
rode more than,
everybody must just start like you,
yeah, I would
with
hope. Yeah,
go from one province or one state to the next state to the next
exactly.
state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Eventually, I just started looking up routes, and I saw the most famous one the United States is the Trans-American Trail, which goes from Virginia to Oregon. And
Is
it's
that on road or is it all like an
majority,
old railway bed?
no, majority is road.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. There's a group called Adventure Cycling Association, and they make these routes along the country for
Oh,
touring. So
cool.
there's like the northern tier, the southern tier, the East Coast Greenway, all these
Right.
routes. But Trans Am is by far the most popular. Yeah, so I just like looked at that. I just kept doing research, and then eventually I went to my job, asked for 3 months off. They gave it to me, and then I set out and did it.
Nice. What were you doing at the time?
I was a mechanical engineer.
Shut the front door. Really? You're a
Yeah,
mechanical engineer?
mechanical engineer. Yeah, yeah. That's kind of what made working on the bike and learning all that stuff a little
Yeah,
easier.
I'd
But
say.
yeah,
Wow. So you got your 3 months leave
yep.
now? That was your first tour, right?
That was back in August of 2018, the end of
Yeah.
August in
So
2018.
let's
Yeah.
talk about the tour from Virginia to California.
Yeah. So,
Is that where you like? I'm definitely get a plane ride home.
well, so I moved out of my place and like got rid of. I put all my stuff in storage because I would come back to Raleigh, and then I drove to meet my mom and my nephew in the starting point, which is Yorktown, Virginia. So right at you dip
Okay.
your tire in the ocean and then you ride out.
Oh,
Uh, I never packed up my bike fully loaded once. I just threw all my crap in the trunk and then drove there. And then the morning of,
oh my.
actually, the morning before, it started raining, and me and my nephew were trying to start a fire. And I actually cut my hand and went to the hospital and had to get stitches that night. So that was a
Oh
whole
no.
thing. And then the next morning, I was trying to figure out, all right, what do I want to take? Which is like dumb. You should not do that the morning of the tour. So I loaded it up and then I went to ride and I just tipped over and I was like, oh wow, I can't. And my mom and nephew already took off at this point. I was like,
Oh
this
my
isn't.
gosh, you're
Yeah.
like, no,
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah, it's like I can't quit now. So I had to spend
Yeah,
another
your
day.
mom's probably like, let's just go. So like,
Yeah. So yeah, I had to spend another night at the campsite getting rid of some of the gear that I had and trying to
oh
balance the weight
shoot.
right.
Okay, so
And
what did you get rid of?
so much crap. I had like a bunch of clothes. So like one of them was like a long sleeve sweater kind of thing for
Oh,
cycling. I got rid of that. I had like too many t-shirts, so I got rid of that. I had a tarp with me, and I'm talking like the blue tarp you buy at
Oh
Walmart.
my God, yeah.
So I don't know why I had that. That was dumb. I brought a chair with me at the time, and it just wasn't that wasn't working out.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
got rid of that. I mean, I can't even. And this was just the first day of getting rid of stuff. I've got rid of stuff. I think I mailed stuff home 4 times on that trip, and got rid of
Oh
stuff
my gosh,
for
that's so
free. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, I like I shedded a bunch of weight, and then hopped on the bike and just started riding. I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then like, after 5 miles, I was like, wow, this is horrible. And then it poured rain. And then I remember I crashed my bike because I was trying to rest my elbows on the handlebars, but I never did that with this kind of weight on it. And I just tipped over like immediately and crashed. And I think I did like maybe 40 miles, barely 40. So I was like in the pouring rain, and I'd stopped at this like bed and breakfast thing, and I was just sitting out there in the rain, and they invited me in. So I got lucky on that first day. And then the next 2 days it poured rain, and my body was
OMG.
not used to doing like consecutive days of this. Like, one day was fine, but like 3 straight days, it's just like, what are you doing? That's what my body was saying.
Yeah.
So it was really miserable those first few days. Just like I was so out of my element, and yeah, and everything was wet, it just sucked.
So, okay, let's just go into more of what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
Because and how many times did you think about like just phoning home and say, Mom, can you like come pick me up?
Oh, every day that first week, I would say I thought of it.
Oh
I
gosh.
would have loved to have gone. So there was a point where I go into a grocery store, I lock up my bike, and I just stopped locking it up because I just I wanted somebody to just take it. And then it would have been a great, nobody can fault you if like your bike is stolen. It's like, well, my bike was stolen, so I gotta come home. It wasn't I quit. It was stolen.
Yeah.
So, but nobody ever took the damn thing. I mean, it's just this heavy monstrosity. Like, who's gonna try to carry that? So, so nobody took it, and then, but yeah, honestly, it was every day. I was just looking for excuses to get home without making it look like I quit. And that's the only thing that fueled me that first week was the embarrassment of coming home,
Right.
failing after talking about this for like a year.
Oh
So,
my God. Yeah, right. Yeah, I
yeah.
see. Yeah.
So it
Uh-huh.
was just, me just like angrily pedaling, slowly every day, just like
Oh yeah, I can see
so
that.
mad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the teeth out, just yelling so loud at
So
nobody
in
in
that
particular.
week, how far did you get? Like, were you surprised about how far you got?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So the
You're
first
like,
few days, it was like 45 miles a day, and this is like in
oh, that's not
Virginia.
so bad.
Yeah, and then you get to the Blue Ridge Parkway,
Oh, but
and it's just like, yeah, that almost killed me. And then that first week, I think I made it to like, yeah, it's so long ago, but I'd say 3/4 of the way through Virginia is how far I made it. And then, eventually after all this pain and struggle and the bonking and learning how to eat,
the bonking.
yeah,
Oh, geez.
I mean, I've never ridden enough to need to consume like, 3 to 5,000 calories. But when you're in Virginia in late August, and you're climbing, anywhere from like 2,500 to 4,000 feet in a day, and you're trying to knock off 40 to 70 miles, and yeah, you need to
So,
consume calories.
yeah.
And I,
So,
I was not used to that.
oh, no kidding. Hey, like, is there any more food on my panniers?
Yeah.
So, besides the Blue Ridge, is there other hills past that?
I mean, it's just all Appalachian
Is
territory.
it?
So
Okay.
yeah,
Because, like, I cycled the Blue Ridge. So, but we
yeah,
were always on the, this, not the Atlantic side, so you just go up, go along the ridge, back down.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Because yeah, in the beginning I was on the Atlantic side, so it was all nice and flat, and then after
Yeah. And
that it
then
was
you
just
just lay
all,
it.
and it never stopped. It never stopped till Kentucky.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, it was just an unbelievable struggle because I didn't know any of this stuff going in that you should know, like, you know, weight distribution, eating, hydration, where to sleep, all this stuff. So it takes a toll on you, but eventually, if you do it long enough, you get a routine down, your body gets used to it,
Yeah.
and then suddenly, like, you're not worried about all this other stuff, and you're just kind of enjoying these crazy views, meeting these awesome people, you know, camping in places you never would have ever been in your life.
Right.
Just yeah.
Was it always on the side of the road, or did you veer
No,
off like into villages and
yeah. So in the villages, campsites, the cool
okay.
thing about ACA, the maps that they make,
Oh,
is they work with people like churches and fire stations and cities for city parks to see if they will allow cyclists to like camp in these areas, and a lot of them do.
oh, very cool.
Yeah, one of my favorite places is a small town in Palmyra, Virginia. I think population like 200, but they worked with the church to allow cyclists to stay there. And I was just expecting them to like a patch of dirt to pitch the tent, but they had their basement unlocked. They let cyclists come in. They used the bathroom. They had this whole room filled with snacks. You know, just
Wow.
endless. And me and another cyclist were staying there at the time, and it was just so crazy. Yeah, and they had the book of all the cyclists that stayed there, like hundreds of pages, and yeah, it
Oh,
was just
this
so
is
cool.
great. Keep
Yeah,
talking, Alex. Like this is
yeah,
stuff like okay, my tour, my previous interviewers have not talked about because I can just imagine, you know, the pain threshold and then you hit the top and then it kind of goes away because your legs have starting to get used to it.
yeah,
But this is really cool. I wonder if they have that across Canada too.
yeah. So like the ACA had to like work with these people in order to get started. So like you get these maps, and then they have
Yeah,
numbers, and you call them up. It's like, hey, I'm a cyclist, and they're like, oh my god, yeah, you got to get here and make it. And then you get there, and then everybody. It's just such a cool community, and they do it
oh,
like during the busy season. Like they're doing this almost every day, like having cyclists, you know, get there, and sometimes it'll be like large groups of like, you know, 10 to 15. So
right.
but these
Did you
guys
see
are
lots of people? Like lots of
I
other cyclists? Did you
I
pass a
was
lot of people or?
I did meet a few, but I was going during the off season, like at the end of
Right. Okay.
August.
Yeah.
June is
Yeah.
like the peak. So, but I still got to meet a lot of people who were doing it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's cool to like pull over to the side and then get to talk to a lot of these people. Be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm about to finish in Yorktown." I was like, "Well, I'm pretty much starting. I'm only 6 days in, and then." So the thing that you do is you give advice to the cyclist. So that, and I did. So the first person I ever met was a guy from Germany, and you know, he was just about to finish up his because he was going west to east, and he's like, okay, so I got to give you advice. He's like, let me think. He's like, yeah. So he gave me a fire station that he stayed at a couple of days out, where I was a couple of days out. He showed me he carried bear spray because when dogs chased you in Kentucky, Kentucky was the worst state for dogs, and he's like, yeah, so you got to stop and spray them. Uh, yeah, he gave advice about just a lot of different things that I didn't know about, and he was the first of many that did this who I crossed paths with.
Right.
Uh, so that was really cool, and I was kind of hoping to meet somebody on the other side who I could then return the favor, but
Right.
sadly it didn't happen. But
Oh,
yeah, it's just a
okay.
really yeah, and that was the best thing. The best thing I could have done was pick that route because it's definitely the most popular, and it's the
Right.
most set up for campsites. They call it cyclist lodging. It's the most set up for that, you know, between fire stations, churches, and cities, and
Right.
campgrounds and stuff.
Actually, they do have something like that in Quebec because um, every place that, you know, it's like a welcome sticker that's
Oh yeah,
on their window, I guess. You know, it's like, you know, cyclists welcome here. And some of our local restaurants here and little hotels have them too.
oh
So
cool, okay,
yeah,
yeah,
so I guess it's a Quebec version of you know, cyclists this awareness or you know, maybe it's on a route. I don't know.
yeah.
Probably.
It,
Yeah.
it probably is. That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But they've dug up a lot of railway beds around here, so you can basically travel from village to village on on like railway, packed up
Off the
railway
road.
beds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are cool. Yeah, I've seen those pop up a lot. They're popping up a lot more now, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad the trains are going, but
Yeah.
I'm glad, glad they're doing something with them to make it sustainable so continue on. So like, all right. So you're on your way to California. You've
Yeah.
overcome the week.
Yeah.
And now you're like enjoying yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say like after that first week, I was slowly getting into it, not quite where I should have been. I had a lot of suffering days. I met this couple from Wales, and they were amazing cyclists. She was a professional cyclist. He might
Oh,
as well have
wow.
been a professional cyclist the way he rode. And they,
To keep up
I,
with her.
well, I mean, he was really good. And I was like nervous about riding with them because I was like, I don't think I'm gonna keep up with you guys. But they carried me along. They switched the draft. What's the thing where you switch
The
drafting?
drafting, yeah.
Yeah. So they let me just stay in the back while they took care of all that.
Oh,
And
very nice. That's
yeah,
very nice.
I mean, I would have been useless if I went up to the front, so it's probably
Right.
just as well.
Oh,
And
that's the best place to be, just sort of
yeah,
hanging out.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I never shifted. I have a triple ring on the front, and I never shifted
Hmm.
to the big one yet this entire trip. And then the one day, they made me shift, and then like they just really taught me how to, I guess,
You're
be a more
like, oh my
faster.
God, this is so much easier.
Yeah, just a faster, more efficient rider, and just like really pushing my limits. At the time, I was just like going really slow, and
Hmm.
except in an 8-hour day, I can only get like 40 miles, and then I was able to go much faster than that after like hanging out with these guys for a while. So that was really awesome. I hit my longest day with them was 70 miles, which is the longest I've ridden in my life. So that
Wow.
kind of like said, man, I think I can, go faster, do more, and kind of, which will help me enjoy this better. So, as days went on, I think probably after I left the Appalachian Mountains, which is like after Kentucky,
Hmm.
and then I finished a trail in Missouri. That's kind of when I started to like really get fit, and I was in a routine, and I was able to
Yeah.
do this all pretty nicely. And then I hit Kansas, and that's where headwind, my first experience with like bad wind, came in. And yeah, so I had to get used to days of just like pushing as hard as I could for an hour and only going 10 miles, or on
Oh,
flat, on
yeah,
flat.
yeah.
So so
You might as well
then
go
there's
be
that.
going up the Appalachian Mountains because it'd
Pretty
probably be
much,
easier.
yeah. Yeah, at that point I was like, gosh, I kind of prefer the mountains at this
Yeah.
point. So
Oh yeah, I know. Wind is neck because it never stops, right? At
it's
least
the
the hill's
worst.
finished.
Yeah, it's horrible. um But yeah, and then I got to Colorado and Utah, which those are my two favorite states after riding through them. Just the mountain ranges and the nature is just it's amazing there. I freaking loved it. It was so
Yeah.
great. Uh, yeah, and then at that point, that's when I really hit my stride. I did a couple of century rides. I was pretty much camping wherever I wanted to on my own. I became pretty proficient at setting up camp and cooking and all that stuff.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and then I hit Arizona, got snowed on. It got a little bit rougher because now we're in October, and
Just a second. This is 2018.
18. Yeah,
So this is like around December, right?
yeah, October. This was
Oh,
I want to say
October.
mid to late October, I think, something
Okay.
around there. Yeah, and then and then I hit California and got to the ocean. You do the dip your tire into the Pacific at this point, and I just kind of like
Did you
sat
like lay
there. Yeah, I
lay in
just
the
kind of,
water?
yeah, I just sat there on the beach staring at the water, and I was like, huh, this is weird. Like, because normally around this time, I'm planning the next day's route. I'm getting all the food together and making sure I have enough stuff for a couple of days, cooking, just setting up camp and then getting ready for bed. But I'm like, it's over. There's nothing to prepare for
Oh,
anymore.
so how long did it end up taking you?
It took me 70 days
70
from,
days. So
yeah, for
you had like,
about 3,300 miles of riding.
wow, so you have like 20 days left to go back to work.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, so did you have like a plane ticket from there? Or
Yeah.
you were just, oh, so you had to be there by a certain date.
Yeah. I bought it when I was
Oh,
in Arizona. I tried to time it right. And
oh, I see. Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I shipped the bike back home and then took the flight back home. And then,
Right. Then
yeah.
you're
And
like,
that was the end of it.
okay, so now let's talk about back home.
Yeah.
You're back to work. And how did that feel?
So it was good at first because it was just like a change of pace and getting back to a job. I really loved the job that I had, so it was great. But man, it's just like to get that out of your head, like that experience, and just you start thinking of all the things that you didn't do right. You know, when I was in Utah, I was riding up a cliff to go to a national park in Bryce Canyon, and yeah, I just remember I was climbing for what seemed like ever, and then I had no service. It was like 10 degrees up there, and I didn't know where I was going to stay, and I was kind of like scared. I was like, oh, I shouldn't move on with this. So I turned around and went back to the place that I stayed the day before. And then, when I went back to look at like the Strava map, I was only like a mile from the top. Uh,
Oh,
and I was like,
oh,
damn, I could have made that. And then the downhill would have been great. And then I would have got there. So I thought about that. I thought about rides that I took in Utah to like, cause I couldn't ride very much more. And, just places I skipped because I was like, I'm not doing any extra miles. And,
oh,
just,
okay.
just like a lot of things. And then you,
Ah,
and then you look at other people, and then the whole time I was at work, I was just pretty much just like looking at other people's touring going on now. I was like, damn, that looks cool. That looks fun. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I was only doing this for like 2.5 months or something like that. These guys are doing this for like a year. I was like, I feel like you need to go at this for like a year, at least a year, to like get the appreciation. So I was never able to like acclimate back to like real life. I was just,
oh,
I was
wow.
there and I was, kind of working and stuff, but I just kept thinking the whole time, like, man, I just wish I had a second shot at this. Cause that was my first tour. It was that, it was a
Hmm.
3,300, 2.5 month, ride across the country. And, yeah, I just fell in love with it and got super addicted. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like March timeframe, March of 2019, where I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna be able to move past this unless I like just go for it. So from that day on, I started planning at least a 2-year, 6 continent tour. That was the plan.
Okay.
So from that point on, I was doing everything I could to get to that goal.
Yeah, so you're saving money and
Yeah.
still
So I
like everything.
started selling everything that I owned. Because the first tour I put everything in storage, and then this
Right.
time around I was like, nah, not this time. Just sell everything. Got rid of the bed, for all the furniture, all my bikes. Sadly, just everything. Yeah,
All your bikes. How many bikes did you have?
I had 4 at the time,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, it was just like time for them.
Yeah, I only have room for one bike in my life. No.
Yeah, for now. I already got 6 in my head when I'm done with this tour. So
Well, as a chemical, no, sorry, electrical, not a second,
mechanical.
mechanical engineer.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure you don't have to worry about going back and finding a job in your area,
I hope not.
anywhere for that
Yeah,
matter.
I hope not. Especially with like a 2-year gap in a in it.
Ah,
So,
I'm sure
but
you're pretty fast learn as well.
yeah, I hope so.
You're like, I like California, I'm gonna stay here, or I'm gonna stay over in Europe and just work here, or
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, if you could just
so.
pick it up anyway.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
engineering is, I don't
yeah,
know. It's I don't know. I imagine, if you find the right firm, you could probably, you know, find
yeah.
a good job.
And that's funny. One of a couple I met on the trail when I was riding it, that was the first question they asked is, "What do you do?" And I said, "Engineering." She's like, "Yep." I figured it's like most of the people we meet who like just drop everything and do this, or either engineers or computer, technicians or something like that. A job that's
Really?
always in demand and that you can kind of do anywhere. So I was like, huh, yeah, that's a good point. I guess
Yeah,
it
that's
just
what I'm
worked out.
saying. Like,
Yeah, it
oh.
just kind of worked out that way. Yeah.
So let's talk about your next plan, which obviously is okay. Before we get into that, so we know each other. So I was referred to you by Dan Hurd. So you guys have to go back and listen to my interview with Dan. He cycled across, well, he was on a 2-year tour cycling across North America, United States, for suicide awareness. Now, how did you guys, because I think you guys met on the road, meet, and how did you become one of his ambassadors?
So like I was saying, I was planning that world tour. Unfortunately, the takeoff date was when COVID hit and everything got canceled. So I was delayed like months until finally I was like, you know what, I'm just going to ride around the country here, that's good. And I'll wait until until I can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I started in Pennsylvania and Ohio and then up to Michigan. And then eventually it got to the point where I was like, I don't think I'll be able to travel out of this country. So I met this couple and they just finished riding 49 states. And so I said, that sounds cool. Let me go for that. 49 states. And then that's how I heard of Dan, because his thing was he's riding the lower 48 for suicide awareness.
Yeah.
And I just saw him online and I was like, And I follow a lot of bicycle touring people, and this guy was like riding at the time. So I was like, that's awesome. I'll just give him a follow. I never ever in my wildest dreams thought that he would, that we would meet, that he would follow me back. That just, I was just like happy to like just kind of follow along. And he started following my journey too. And we didn't really keep in touch because I like I said, I don't think we ever thought we'd cross paths. I was in Michigan and he was in Wyoming at the time. And once I got to Colorado, he just reached out. He's like, hey man, are you gonna be in Utah soon? I was like, I think so. He's like, I think our paths might cross. He's like, if you're interested, you want to meet up? I was like, I'll be right there. And
just a second.
Yeah.
I'll just bike on over.
I remember I told him like I'm 2 weeks out, but I made it there in like 8 days, I think, because I was so excited. And this is like riding over the Rockies and everything.
Yeah.
I was like, man, when I get there, I need a day off. I just want one day off, please. And we stayed at a hostel for 5 days in Moab, just exploring Moab.
Oh my gosh, Moab's nice.
It's amazing. I never wanted to leave, but
I didn't get to spend a lot of time there, but
yeah,
I was there for like a day or two, and
yeah,
it was really nice.
Did some hiking, did some mountain biking.
Oh
just
yeah,
explored the town. It was awesome. And yeah, so yeah, from there we left and we rode together for 5 days, and it was just a blast. This was like
he's a really nice guy.
He's
sorry, here you go.
He's like a really awesome and cool dude, but he's also like a very expert bicycle tourer at this time. He's got a lot of knowledge and stuff under his belt, and he was just like very happy to share it all with me. So I was just like super honored to be with that dude for a few days.
Yeah, so when you're saying that, he responded quickly, he was referred to me by a friend of mine. I don't even think she's a cyclist, but she's following him. And she's like, hey, Sylvie, you should reach out to this guy because he's cycling across, and he's a cyclist and you'd be great for your podcast. And I reached out and he's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, wow. You, I'm like, wow, he got back to me. So, just like, cool. And and we sat and and I'm actually on his podcast in February.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I was on there too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we podcasted each other.
Nice. What do they call that? A home and home, I think is what they call it.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. When you're on the bike, you listen to a lot of podcasts, and that's one of the terms I use. So.
Okay, love it.
Yeah.
So you guys are riding together. So how did it come about that you became one of his ambassadors? Because I know he's growing that one pedal at a time.
Yeah, so he talked about trying to spread the awareness through ambassadors and stuff, and just kind of brought it up. And it's something I've always wanted a cause to ride for, because I've always met people who had causes, and I just I kind of almost felt selfish just doing this for just my own wanting to. And if you can help spread a good cause, why not? And when he offered to let me hop on, was like, huh, man, that's kind of an honor. I don't know. I don't have the same passion and personal touches like you have to it. So I was kind of worried at first, but
Yeah.
he's like, no, he's like, it's really all just about spreading awareness. And then, but then after a while, I was like, we're pretty good friends now. I was
Hmm.
like, suicide was like a huge part of your life. And it's almost like, well, if you were successful in that, I never would have met you. And that's a pretty big deal to me,
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it hits me personally. I was like, we may have never crossed paths. So I was honored to hop on and join along.
So do you have, um, do you know anybody who had committed suicide, or do you have any ties to that
I,
personally for yourself, or?
no, I haven't actually, and that's why I was kind of nervous about
Right.
hopping on at first. But like you said, it was kind of just about spreading the awareness and being
Yeah.
against suicide more than having a personal
Right.
tie to it. And
Well, I think,
but yeah,
yeah, I think cycling or sports, maybe, I don't know, just sports or cycling more has done a lot of great things for a lot of people.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I know sports saved me in high school, and
mm,
that's kind of where I was tied in, to sharing my story with him. But, um, and it is a great thing, because if you think about what's going on now, a lot of people are, in a bad way,
yeah,
just
yeah.
because, it's almost going to be a year. And, but the nice thing is that, a lot of people gravitated to the bike this
A
year, or
lot of
last year, I
people,
should
yeah,
say. Yeah. And I know here, like, everybody's inside now because it's all snowy and stuff, but but a lot of people actually have bought up winter equipment to get outside. So
nice, yeah,
it's just like crazy.
yeah,
I mean, I've always been like done outdoor stuff, but when you start seeing and hearing of a lot of like people who have never, really been interested in outdoor,
yeah.
snowshoeing or cross country skiing or skating or
Oh,
hiking or whatever, you're just like,
yeah.
wow, how many, like, what have you guys been doing?
Yeah, it's crazy. You can't buy a tent and you can't buy a
Yeah.
camping stove fuel anywhere. Like it's all
Oh,
sold
is it
out and
like that in Florida? Like it's kind
it,
of,
it was like that along pretty much everywhere I rode. I mean, Utah, Arizona, people just buy all this stuff out and it's because everybody's
wow,
getting into it. It's crazy. And
right? Or
bikes are being like,
storage, or like
yeah,
stocking up.
yeah.
But yeah, no kidding. So now, all right. So what's the next plan? Like, you talked about the continents. You want to just sort of share. You
Yeah.
had to enlighten me as to what that that
Yeah.
entailed, because you've mentioned that you were going to start in Scotland,
Yeah.
and that was supposed to be last year this time, and it got all screwed
Yeah.
up. But what was that tour going to look like quickly?
Yeah, so I bought the ticket to Scotland in January of 2020 and was ready to,
Uh,
and the flight was at the end of April 2020. So I, handed in my notice and was ready to do it, and everything got grounded. But the route was Inverness, starting in Inverness, Scotland, and then heading to Ireland, and then heading to Wales, and then going through England, and then eventually taking a ferry to Denmark, I believe, and
yeah.
then heading, yeah. Well, I wanted to go to the Netherlands because that's the bicycle capital of the world, they say. So
Ooh.
I definitely wanted to go through there, and then Germany, and then after that, it was just figuring out zigzags to get to Northern Africa.
Right.
So the thing is, like, if you're gonna have like this many, that many miles and that many years, you can't really plan the route,
Right.
perfectly because
Yeah.
things change in a 2 month tour. So it's going to change in a 2 year tour. So all I had were countries that I absolutely wanted to visit,
Right.
and then it was just about how to get to them when I was during the ride. So after Germany, I didn't have the plan. It was just however many states I can get or countries I can get through in Europe till I get to Northern Africa, and then hopefully go into Egypt, and then shoot into through Asia, where I really wanted to go through Kyrgyzstan, which is like a hugely popular bike packing. I think it's
Oh,
called the,
really?
yeah, it's not the Pan American Highway, the Pamir Highway, and eventually make my way to Japan, and then head south to get to Australia, And then after Australia, the home stretch would have been the southern tip of South America,
Oh yeah.
Ushuaia, all the way to Alaska. So.
That's right. That's on the West Coast. As I was, I'm like,
Oh yeah.
what? So that's
Yeah.
the home stretch from North South
Yeah.
America all the way up.
Exactly.
United
Yeah.
States, Canada, up to Australia. Just,
Alaska.
oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Alaska. Yeah,
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
For
That's always
those
been my
who,
dream, is to step foot in Alaska.
wow, maybe you just get a job there and stay there and become
Maybe.
and start following those guys who live off the land in Australia and just hunt and
Yeah.
do all that
I'm not a
stuff.
live off the land kind of guy. I need Snickers bars and Cliff
Ah!
bars and yeah. I enjoy
All
the
right, we
outdoors,
haven't
but
we haven't passed over to that part yet.
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's awesome. Well, I think like everybody, we're all just waiting for some sort of green light, which I don't know if
Yeah.
ever is going to happen anytime
Yeah.
soon, to leave our con our country. So,
Exactly.
so right now you've decided to bike around. Do you want to, okay, before we finish, because we're almost at the top of the hour,
Yep.
do you want to go through a couple of things? So guys, you have to get on YouTube to see this. So Alex has his bike behind him.
Oh yeah.
And I was wondering if you wanted to point out maybe 2 or 3 like key things that say a novice touring person should definitely pay more attention to. And do some
So
research on, because like you said you did some research, like a lot of
yeah.
research on the handlebars. What else would you recommend?
So one of the biggest things for touring is, how do you charge your stuff? And like the three main things
Oh,
are
good idea.
battery banks, solar, and generator.
Right.
I went with generators, so on the front hub, and
Oh,
I don't know if you could see it very well, but that
I can
hub,
see. Is that silver thing?
uh, it's a dynamo. Let's see if we can get this off
So
here.
do you charge it off your wheel while you're pedaling?
Yeah. So there's this
Oh,
dynamo
wicked.
here, and
Right.
it's a cabling that an electrical engineer actually helped me cable up.
The
That rides up
engineering
here.
part comes in here.
Yeah, it'll power the light, but
Right.
when it's not powering the light, there's a USB port up here,
Yeah.
and you can
Okay,
plug.
put your camera down. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So you plug in your USB stuff, and so I can charge my Garmin,
Right.
the other electronics I have in here, and it can charge a small battery bank that I have that then can power my phone, because my phone's too big for it to charge that. But yeah, so that pretty much charges all my little
Cool.
stuff, and now that I have that smaller battery bank, it can charge my phone in essence.
Right.
So. And that's a huge deal, because I've gone through stretches where I couldn't charge anything for a few days, and
Right.
without that kind of sustainability, it's
I know you have to sit there and find a plug, right?
yeah. Then you got to either get a hotel room or a campsite or something like that, and it's just I don't always want to do that. So
Right.
yeah.
So, because I have seen, oh gosh, I have seen those ones that is there anything that runs, this
On the
is like,
rim.
yeah,
Yeah. So that's another form of the dynamo. It goes onto
right.
there, and it
Right near the brake. Oh, well,
kind
up near
of
where the old like brakes used to be.
right. It couples with the rim, and then that's how it's powered. It's just a different way to power it. I think they say that has more drag on it.
Well, I was
Uh,
going to ask if it kind of slowed your
yeah,
pedaling down because you're pushing.
there's definitely efficiency loss, and there's more when you're using it as opposed to not using it. Either way, there's some type of loss, but when you're touring, I mean, you got to kind of weigh the pros and cons. You
Right.
need some type of
Right.
regenerative power source, and I'm not racing anybody, so it's not really a big deal.
Don't need to go anywhere too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Is how do you charge everything? Because everybody's got like you need your phone to listen to your podcasts and search your maps and things
Yeah,
like that.
the maps are the biggest thing. Yeah. So
Right.
I try to use my phone only for maps. So, you know, the Garmin does all the GPS data and, well, I mean, that's really the only other thing, but
Yeah,
yeah,
and have enough data. No kidding.
yeah. So
Because
when
if you're
I'm,
listening to like, well, I don't know, how much does a podcast take?
uh,
Like for
for,
downloads for like taking of
oh,
data?
oh, it's not a
Nothing?
lot. Yeah. I
No.
remember I downloaded like 20 podcasts in a day. And might have been like probably, I think it was less than a gig. I'm not sure. I can't
Oh.
remember, but it wasn't a lot. So I wasn't really too worried about it. But you know, if you're going through like a stretch of like, you know, I'm going to be going 3 days without power,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have your phone in airplane mode for like, you know, half the day on each day,
Right.
just so, and then, you know, have battery banks that are full. So I carry one 13,000 milliamp battery bank, and that small one is 33, so it's about like 1,700 milliamp hours of power that I have, uh, combined with a generator. So that's pretty decent. Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take you to figure that out?
A long time.
Across California to one
Yeah.
trip across the
So
United States.
I had the dynamo for the cross country ride, that 2018, but I didn't use it once the entire ride. And I had like a 5,000 milliamp battery bank that, you know, my phone would eat in like one charge. So,
Oh God. You're like,
so
what do you guys do about this?
yeah,
So
I
what?
did, I
Oh,
didn't
go
like
ahead.
it at first on the first trip because the wires were going everywhere, and I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I didn't have a good way of doing it. But now,
Hmm.
you know, now that's changed, and you need it now. I need it now, so.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like one less T-shirt. Add the.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll throw away one article of clothing and I can put the
Yeah.
dyno.
So what's one more? What's one other thing that is probably not so obvious that is like a must-have?
I think, dang, not obvious.
Like something that I would, well, you know, like a beginner probably wouldn't think of, like that you didn't think of, but now you certainly love.
Uh, dang.
A
So
good pump.
it's not, yeah, I would hope everybody would carry a pump though. And a bunch, so yeah, I have a bunch of patches in there. But as far as like gear wise, I think people will always tell you to like not bring luxury items, but at the same time,
Okay, what's your one luxury item?
oh no, it's four luxury.
Four of them. Okay, what are
I got
they?
a bunch. So there's a chair in here.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, it weighs 1 pound, and there's two. I always say there's two types of people in the cycle touring community: those who carry chairs and those who mock people for carry chairs. And
I wish they had a chair.
yeah, I mean, it's super comfortable. You're not laying on the ground all the time, and
Can you
no, I
pull it
might.
out? Do you have it there?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
let's see it. Like if this
and
is a 1 pound chair, I want to see it.
it's like no, I don't use it every day, but at the same time, like when I do want it, it's great to have. So that's a
There's a
tripod.
tripod.
So these are definitely luxury items, tripods.
Yeah, well, every one of you guys need it because you take all those fabulous photos.
Right. So this is the 1 pound chair.
Is it like one of those of,
Gila next one. It's
well, I don't,
close.
yeah, like it's like a 3 legs.
Oh no, it's four. It's got just like a series of like aluminum
Oh yes, I
rods that
think I've
like go
seen
down.
one of these.
Yeah.
You just sort of like they just sort of fit all together and then
Yeah,
you
they
got a
just all
square
click.
seat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
just all
yeah.
click there, and then the fabric just
Somebody
pushes
had one
down.
of those at a campsite when I was in when we went camping last
Oh
year. We're like,
yeah.
oh my God, look at that.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
You're like, how
great
much
when
is it?
you.
Those things are not cheap, but they're
No, they're
probably
not.
really worth it.
My friend, he used it on a camping trip, and then I had to have it. But when I got there, the sale that he got it on was over, so I waited 6 months for the next sale before I bought it because
Oh, yeah, they're
yeah, I
like
don't
100 and
100, but I got it for 60 because I waited for the
oh,
sale.
wicked.
Yeah, I did pretty much nothing on here. I bought it. I spent a year. The reason I like had to spend so much time prepping is like I couldn't buy everything at the normal price. So it's just like
Seriously, like it's not cheap.
no,
When you
no.
when you go light, it's not
Yeah,
cheap. I
yeah.
know we're like
Thankfully,
we're looking at not backpacks, but like thermarests
Oh
and
yeah.
sleeping bags, because
God.
we want to we do canoe camping,
Oh
and
nice.
we want to get into more hiking camping, like with the kids. So, like everything has to be small because, so the kids can carry it. No,
Yeah.
but
Uh,
what's your last luxury item? So you got the chair,
that
you got your
what
tripods.
was the other thing? I just packed it. Oh, a pillow and a pillow, I think is the other one. I
Oh,
mean, that thing weighs like
wow.
nothing, so, but
Is it an
uh,
inflatable one, or is it one of
yeah.
those like squishy?
Oh, it's inflatable. Yeah.
Is it? Okay. Are those really comfortable? Better than nothing.
They're better than nothing, is what I'll say.
Right. What's the last one, Alex?
The last luxury item?
Yeah, you said you had four.
I have a camera too, which
Oh,
I
okay.
guess
Well,
I
yeah, I
carry a
guess
lot on
that's
this. Yeah.
well, that's why you got to
So,
document these things.
yeah.
So are you, so you're in Florida right now. Okay. Before we end, because, um, have you been touring now, or just riding around, or just
No,
hanging?
as soon as I got here, I just did nothing. My goal is to gain 25 pounds, and I got to 21 pounds that I've gained. Uh,
I
so
hope
I'm
you've been
just,
doing it a healthy way.
I have not.
Oh God.
It's extremely unhealthy, and I'm kind of realizing that now.
Oh
So,
no.
yeah, because I don't know, I've been losing so much weight on the rides on the tour.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm gonna go into this with a lot of weight, and but anyway, that's just to say
Good
I've
thing
been
you're
being,
starting in Florida. It's kind of
yeah,
flat.
yeah. I've just been being lazy for these past few months. But now I've started riding, now that and working on the bike and changing up the gear. So, now that I finished that, I've started riding around here, just trying to get ready for taking off in a couple of weeks. So,
Oh, you're gonna take off in a couple of weeks.
yeah, beginning of February, head up north. I don't want to miss the winter. I feel bad if I don't ride in some type of cold, miserable winter. So,
Why would you want to do that?
you know, it's
Like,
funny. It's funny. Like I always say, like if you've ever ridden with me while I'm touring, like, and we're going up a mountain or something, you would think I really hated this because I just kind of like curse and mutter and scream, and I seem angry all the time. But honestly, I think it's just like I just really love the misery that touring. It has brought me to some of the worst lows that I've ever had. Where you're just doubting yourself and quitting, and then when you like get past it, it's just like it's the greatest feeling ever. And then you remember that, if you're the things that I remember the most are like when I'm at like just the most absolute lows, and I just love remembering those moments. I just want to chase them all the time. It's crazy.
well, you seem like you've really in a strong mental place to get over those lows, because some of those lows take people out of the game, right?
Yeah,
Like just like,
yeah,
this is it, like
for
turn around,
sure.
this is not for me. So to end, what kind of advice would you give somebody who's, like yourself back, 2 years ago, in
Yeah.
2018, when you got started, or when you decided? What kind of advice would you give them now that you
Uh,
got a little bit of knowledge underneath your belt?
yeah, yeah. Definitely start off small. Get your bike. You don't even need to buy a bike if you have your own bike already.
Mhm.
Strap a tent or something like that to it, ride out, do an overnighter somewhere, and then just see if you like it. And if it's for you, you're gonna fall in love with it like immediately. This is
Right.
like super addicting. It's crazy how the 180 I did from one knowing nothing about it to like now just like reading up on it every day. But yeah, just give it a small try at first and then slowly increment up. Do not just start with a 3,300-mile cross country tour. I thought that probably wasn't a great idea, but yeah, definitely just start off small and then just keep at it. It once you get the routine down and physically fit, and everybody can get to that point. It just takes
Yeah.
time, is all. Once you get to that point, just how amazing it is. Just you'll fall in love with it. I guess that's just the
Yeah.
only thing I can say.
I
So
know you'll get physically fit.
yeah.
It's the mindset that
Oh
that
yeah,
has to come with it.
for sure, for sure.
Wow. You know, the more I talk to you guys, the more like I start talking to my husband. I'm like, hey, like, remember that time you suggested we should? I think we would do a tour first,
Yeah.
and just like because it's the daily, it's the daily riding. That is tough and I had tough at the beginning. And then you have to get over that hump of, just I feel so crappy. And then you get to the top, you go down the other side and you're like, oh, okay. Like my body just acclimates. I'm ready. Like I'm okay now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt that once. I went to a training camp. I was one of the female coaches there, and it was a 10-dayer. And I've never ridden like consecutive days in a row, but
10
when
days.
you're there, you're riding with the kids all the time, like
Yeah.
every day. And I was like you, I was like, it was day like 6. And I was like, oh my God, I need a day off. This is horrible. It was
Yeah.
like one of those days, like, I can't fucking believe we're out here every day riding. And then the next day I was fine.
Yeah. Right.
It was so straight. I was just like, I hated it. I couldn't wait to get back. It was, I was just like, I was the most miserable person.
Yeah.
And then my body just flipped over like, okay,
Yeah.
now I can ride like every day. I don't care how much, like it was a
Yeah.
weird transition, but
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
it was so funny. Well, so, oh yeah, here's the last one. Now you've sold everything. Okay, so how are you going to fund this one? Are you going to work and ride, or
Well,
have you figured out an online side hustle to keep you going?
No, it's still part of the same. It's still part of the same tour that I planned. When I planned that 2019 one, I saved for a year
Oh,
to
okay.
tour for 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
unemployed around
Yeah.
6 continents. So my budget actually got lower because I'm not traveling, around the world.
Right.
So this is just part of it. Still, for the tour, the one that I'm resting for right now was 3 months. 3 months, 18 states, I think. So this is state 28. So I've got 21 more to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the next part of the tour. 21 more
You should
states.
just go straight up to Montreal, or no, straight up to Halifax, and then bike straight across Canada.
I so
And
badly
then
want to
come
go to.
down from
Yeah.
Vancouver, and then
I so badly want to go to Canada. I was at the border when I was in Upper Michigan, but I don't think you're allowed to go there quite yet. So
I was like,
yeah.
maybe like by the time you don't want to be, well, if you want to ride in the
Yeah.
snow, lots of it, but probably by March, April will be much nicer to come across.
Yeah. I don't know if
And the
you'll be allowed.
hilliest worst part is Ontario plus the longest. So yeah.
I've heard a lot of good things. I've heard a lot of good things
No,
about
it's
biking across.
a lot of people cycle across Canada.
Yeah.
But and lots of organized tours. But so yeah, and if you do, you drop me a note and you stop in.
For sure.
That would be
sure.
we would be on route. So
Nice.
awesome. Thanks for the great advice. Like, I hope a lot of people got really good value. I really did. I thought this is really good. Because I
Cool.
like
Yeah.
the dirt, like how you really felt.
Oh yeah.
Don't tell me. I love
Yeah.
it though. And with that, thank you so much, Alex. This has been an extreme pleasure. I've learned a ton. I love the fact that you shared your bike and it was right
Yeah.
there. So like I said, everybody, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you watch this or listen to this on the podcast or watch it on YouTube. Make sure you got the subscription done and the notifications on. And we literally put up 3 podcast episodes a week. So we got Men Monday, or Monday for Men, and then Wednesday for Women, or Women's Wednesday, and then Coach's Tip on Friday. I haven't found out a catchy line for that one yet, but maybe you guys can help me. But with that, I just want to thank everybody, and don't forget to share and go in and give us a 5-star review and provide a comment. We would much appreciate it. Thank you very much. And thank you, Alex.
Thank you.